Well, hello. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's ASPA webinar session. I will say good afternoon, but we have people from all over the globe here today, I think. So I'll say good morning and good evening as well. I want to thank you for spending your time with us. So just a couple housekeeping remarks. My name is Amy Omeng. I'm with the ASPA staff. I'm here to facilitate the group of experts today that have been so kind in sharing their time with us. But I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about your experience and how you're going to view and hear things. You all should have a control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Just a couple options there. You'll see some icons. There's an orange arrow, which will open and close a larger control panel. You'll also see a kind of a square there where you can adjust your screen between a full or a partial mode, depending on how you want to experience that. You should also be seeing some great faces here today. We're using webcam and PowerPoint technologies, so you're going to see both from the presenters. Then a couple things about if you're having any difficulties or how to, and of course, how to engage with our panel today of experts. So a couple things. We will have Q&A at the end of the session. We're going to be going for 75 minutes. But if you have a question or comment that occurs at any time during the session, you can write it into that questions pane that you see in the control panel, and we will address it at the appropriate time. Also later, if you'd like to ask a verbal question, you can hit the hand icon and I will unmute your location and call you by first name. And then lastly, if you have any difficulties or any other questions outside of the session, just type your issue in the questions pane and I'll work with you on the back end. So let's get to why we're here. So joining us today are city staff members and representatives from the City of Miramar who will be discussing their comprehensive assessment of revenues and expenses, the CARE program. They will share with us how this program fosters employee participation and relations, how the city has benefited from the program, both financially and in other areas, and how you can incorporate a CARE program, whether you're with a city or another organization. So I'm going to briefly introduce our panel so we have more time to hear from them. And I'm just going to go in alphabetical order here. So we have Mr. T.C. Adderley. Of course, they're all with the City of Miramar. Mr. T.C. Adderley is the CARE manager in the Office of the City Manager. Mr. Kelvin L. Baker Sr. is the Assistant City Manager. Mr. Kelvin Lewis is the CARE Assistant in the Office of the City Manager. Elsie Rose is Sustainability Manager. And Eunice Toledo is the Account Manager in the Financial Services Department. So leading us off will be Mr. Kelvin Baker Sr., and I do want to give him a proper introduction here. Kelvin is a proven government professional with over 30 years of experience in a varied executive level capacity. A well-known seasoned professional with strong community and relationship ties, he has groomed his skills to manage organizations for the 21st century. And in doing so, he's developed key innovative financial planning initiatives, of course, such as the CARE program here today. He designed the CARE program to leverage assets in governmental agencies. And the implementation of this program assisted multiple municipalities, including, of course, the City of Miramar, in maximizing their funding and expenses. And the program is credited for raising employee morale and keeping varied cities financially sound during challenging times, which of course, too many of us are experiencing. Mr. Baker holds a Master of Science in Management and a certification of Public Management from St. Thomas University, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Human Resources Management and a Bachelor of Science in Biblical Studies from Trinity International University. And in May of 2008, Mr. Baker was awarded an honorary degree in divinity from Jacksonville Theological Seminary in Jacksonville, Florida. He's a native of South Florida, where he resides with his lovely wife and 4 children, and we would like to extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Baker here. So, Mr. Baker, welcome.
Good day to all of you, and thank you. Thank you so much for those of you that have tuned in. We have something very, very exciting to share with you today. Again, we have been successful over the years in implementing what we're about to share with you is just not native just to the city of Miramar, but it's something that we've been fortunate to implement in other local communities throughout South Florida. And we had an opportunity some years ago to present it to the International City Managers Association, and had the privilege of doing an international broadcast on this initiative that we're about to share with you. But what we'd like to highlight today is the City of Miramar experience. It was in November 2018, the city manager of the City of Miramar, Mr. Vernon E. Hargrave, implemented an innovative initiative called CARE. That's a comprehensive assessment of revenues and expense. The CARE program is an internationally proven program that ultimately encourages participation by all individuals within the organization. And it even in some communities, we've been able to even involve the residents and the businesses in the community in this innovation effort as we advance and move forward with city strategies, planning and goal setting, and overall implementation of viable ideas. You know, what I've discovered over the years is that oftentimes the key components to jumpstarting and bringing about great innovative initiative and organization, it doesn't rest in the minds of those on the top of the echelon. It actually rests in the minds of those in many of our entry level positions. And oftentimes in organizations, no one ever stopped to talk to employees and say, what do you think? And you know, you'll be surprised when you open up the door and look to employees and inquire as to what they actually think. But the two main and immediate objectives of the program areas is to identify and to improve on areas of efficiencies within the city and to recognize areas of potential revenue generation for the city, especially in this COVID-19 environment. Everyone is looking at how you can re-energize and how you can reinvent other things that you can do to actually bring in additional revenue. So in our program, our city manager hosted a kickoff event and a luncheon to launch our CARE program. And in that process, we invited all staff to attend and to learn more about the program objectives and the benefits. But most importantly, the city manager wanted to impress upon our staff how their involvement will serve as an integral part of the program success. And you're going to hear more about that in just a few minutes. CARE is an inclusive program and is driven by employee participation. Again, without employee participation, it doesn't work. But through the use of suggestions and form cards that is completed by the employees and submitted to the CARE section. Employee provides suggestions once received. The CARE department filter them through base, and you'll learn a little more about how the information is disseminated by each one of the committees. At this time, we'll like to hear from our CARE manager, Mr. T.C. Adderley, as we begin to sort of share with you how the program worked and many of the successes that we continue to benefit from as the months go by. Mr. Adderley.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Once again, I'm T.C. Adderley. I'm the CARE manager. And before you on the screen is the committee's focus. And I want to start with that. It's a very busy screen, but don't panic. We're not going to read all of the information on the screen to you. What we wanted to do was share each of the committee's focus with you. Not only the 5 that you see here, but on the next slide, all of our teams focus. And the reason why we're doing that is because we want you to know that because of the focus of each team, they have created a mission statement, they have visions, and they have goals. All of their actions, goals, support the city's vision. How to start the program. First, let me say size is not an obstacle. The number of employees, your department size, or even the size of your budget will not be an obstacle to the program. The committee's membership size, however, is recommended at 10, but that is flexible, as you will see in a few minutes. That size should be determined by your workload that you have established, and we'll talk about that also, as it relates to the suggestions that you receive and the suggestions received by each committee. Due to the nature of the committees, some committees will receive a lot more suggestions than others. Some committees will receive suggestions that are easy to determine whether they will be successful or not, while other suggestions will require a more in-depth research before a decision to implement can be made. And we will discuss that also in a few minutes. But the true factor determining the size of your committee is to modify your workload so that you will have the proper size of each committee. As Mr. Baker pointed out, employee involvement is key to the process. There will be, regardless of the size of your organization, a lot of employee involvement. Our first group of employees were selected after they filled out what we refer to as an interest form. To ensure we have strong committees, yes, some of the brightest were selected and others were asked to join the committees. However, this process will enhance and build leadership, teamwork, strategic thinking and planning, and problem solving for all of your employees. The process is flexible. You can start with all aspects of the program, or you can start as Miramar, City of Miramar started, with employee suggestions and management initiatives. We took those two facets on. Your current practices will help you determine whether you will start with all of the aspects or just a few. Now, what are some of the other aspects? Performance indicators, and we refer to them as key performance indicators. Those are things that you are already doing. I like to highlight the police, fire, and code groups when I talk about performance indicators, because they have them already. How many trips to the field, how many trips to the hospital, how many inspections you made. So one of the other aspects of the program is monitoring your key performance indicators. But if you're an organization that's already doing that, or have a process that's doing that, you don't necessarily have to start your care program with that. The second aspect, or another aspect, is customer service surveys. Every time a customer comes in contact with you, resident, business, doesn't matter, you give them a survey and you ask them, did we satisfy your needs? You ask them, did the person give their name? You ask them, were you greeted with a smile? That's another aspect, customer service surveys. And also, our suggestions, we started with employees, but your suggestion program can be all customers, including your residents. These are the factors that you will determine when you're starting your program, and you will determine when you will add them to the process, if ever. So once again, the process is very, very flexible. Now, to give you an idea, remember we started with employee suggestions, and we started just under 2 years ago. And already, just using employee suggestions, we've had 1,384 suggestions. And that is during the virus. I want to call it the virus year, since it's most of the year. So even with the tailing off of suggestions because of that, we are still processing, or have processed, over 1,300 suggestions. Now, these suggestions will not be equally distributed to your committees. Simply because of the nature of the suggestion and what they're suggesting, it might be revenue-based, it might be energy-based. Because of these factors, the committees will get a different number of suggestions referred to them. So therefore, the flow will not necessarily be even. In fact, it will not be even. Now, with all these suggestions coming in, how do you analyze them? Well, first of all, we use a process, a very simple process, I call it a modest process, of SWOT. And this idea really came from one of the committees. And during one of our monthly meetings of chairs, which I'll talk to also about in a few minutes, it was shared that this committee and maybe one other was using SWOT. Now, all of our committees are using this process. In fact, we use the process even when we're presenting to the city manager. And it's simply a look at our strengths and our weaknesses of the suggestion, and then turn around and also look at the opportunity and trends. And it comes right out of the education that we receive in colleges and universities, but it has been very, very helpful in us determining whether the suggestion should be implemented. The number of suggestions implemented by work order is another type of suggestion. And there are so many of them that starting this year, we decided that we would highlight them. Now you say, what are those? Well, most suggestions are related to safety issues that can be implemented by a supervisor, a manager, department director, or even an assistant city manager. But they do not have to reach all the way up to the top of our level of city manager. So we refer to those as suggestions implemented by a work order. These suggestions, however, are just as important as those that require a city manager approval. In fact, because of the safety factor, they can be more important to the success of city operations. Therefore, the benefit of these suggestions should not be overlooked. On this slide is just a short list of suggestions implemented by work order. And I would just identify just one of them for you, just to show you how easy it is sometimes to implement a suggestion that could have a major impact on your organization. Take a look at number 7 on the slide, and that is move the location of a water cooler in City Hall to prevent a slip hazard. Now you can say, well, that's really simple. But we had a water cooler that allowed you to use cups, since we are plastic oriented or anti-plastic oriented city. And then sometimes we had spillage, and that spillage was right in a direct walk path. So simply by putting in a suggestion or by moving the cooler to another area of the lobby and using a wet rug catch, that prevented a safety concern that we have in the city. Here are just a few of our accomplishments with CARE so far. And most of these items that on this slide represents the impact to our budget. We negotiated $48,000 for the term of 2 years. We have $404,000 additional grant dollars awarded to our city during our first year. We have a bus bench contract that negotiated $79,000 for the first year. And when we start advertising on these bus benches that's being installed now, it could have as much of an impact as $377,000 for the city. Here are some more accomplishments. I've already mentioned the total suggestions that we have. We've added $3 million of revenue with this program. We've had $300,000 worth of savings. We've already received $2.7 million to the city. We have already negotiated an additional $119,000 that will come into the city because of guarantees. Just one program has a 20-year impact. It was a management initiative of $35 million over a 20-year period. And this grant cycle, remember I mentioned earlier, we had 400,000 during the first year. This grant cycle, we've already accumulated $595,000 in grants. There's more accomplishments to come. The city established a 501c nonprofit. It's called Economic Development with an Ongoing Community Engagement. This 501c has allowed us to apply for grants that require a nonprofit involvement. This is new to the city and it's already brought benefits to us. Energy savings. We have a performance contract that's currently in the procurement process. This will allow us to replace obsolete equipment, lights, pumps, things of that nature. Housing. The city is currently studying and will create a fund that will maximize or improve our affordable housing and our workforce housing in the city of Miramar, because we do think about our employees when we talk about housing. Accomplishments that we refer to as quality of life improvements. Not all suggestions, not all accomplishments will automatically add revenue to your city or even create savings, but still they have a major benefit to your employees, your residents and business. And to just name maybe two or three, we created a public-private partnership with one of our hotel management companies that the city gets 25% off the regular rates. This is whenever city does business in town or even on business trips. It also allows us to extend our benefit to people coming to visit the city to do business. We didn't stop there. This contract also allows employees, family, and friends who are on vacation to utilize the benefit. Now, you can say, well, I don't see the direct revenue to the city, but you can easily see how the city is saving money. Going down the list, you can look at installing 5 electrical vehicle charging stations at no cost to the city. We didn't have to pay for it, but we still had the benefit. And this will allow us to charge fleet vehicles and some employee vehicles. Also, we have a benefit directly to our public, where we're installing an EV charging station that will be free of charge for our public use. And we're in contract to do more. In fact, we got notice today, and during the presentation later on this morning, you will see an update on that particular item. The roadblocks to our success. Yes, we've had problems. Too many suggestions have been a problem. Suggestions coming in while suggestions are being implemented. So you got both doors open, incoming and outgoing. That becomes a challenge. And naturally, the virus became a challenge. To avoid repeating the same solution for all of our roadblocks, allow me to say our monthly chairs and co-chairs meetings where they share their best practices have played a major part in solving most of our roadblocks that we have encountered. During these meetings, each committee is given time to share their success and their potential problems that are occurring. And we use brainstorming to help each other, but more importantly, when we have a solution, we share it with each other. Additional solutions we found. We have 2 similar problems. Too many suggestions coming in, at the same time we're sending them out. Then you have the other problem where new suggestions are coming in, but they require a lot of action or a lot of research. Here are some of the solutions we've created for those situations. The committees are dividing their work into subcommittees. They concentrate on special areas. We've added more members when necessary. but we seek members with high energy levels and expertise in the area that we need. This has allowed the committee, then we allowed the committees to pick from our list of employees that want to be members of the CARE program. Remember earlier I said management was very involved in selecting the employees. This time around, we allowed the chairs, the co-chairs, and even members of the committee to look at the list of people who wanted to be on CARE committees and let them select new members. We call that the supplemental draft. We created an implementation team. We took members that had expertise and we put them, or at least allowed them, to support the committees that had problems getting some of the facts they needed to implement their suggestions. And finally, when it comes to a roadblock, it's the virus. Now, WebEx meetings had already started, luckily for the city of Miramar, before COVID-19 hit us. Two committees who had spread out members had already started meeting this way. And they shared that during the best practices meetings with the other committees. So now all of our committees are meeting virtually whenever possible. That was a lot of tell. And the question really stands, will CARE work during hard times? Now we're going to give you some show. Two of our committees are online and ready to present to you their last two best practices reports. These are the last two that we'll receive during virus time. And first up will be our conservation policy group, followed by our revenue group. So LC Rose will do conservation, followed by Yenisei Toledo, who will give you revenue. So with that, I present to you LC Rose.
Hi there, good afternoon. Can you hear me? So I am Elsie Rose, Sustainability Manager at the City of Miramar. Thank you. Sustainability Manager at the City of Miramar and also co-chair for the CARE Conservation Committee. I will tell you a little bit about our experience with the CARE program, and most specifically, I will let you see through the lens of the Conservation Committee. Let's start with the cast. Our committee is very diverse. We have 11 members from 7 different departments. We have different backgrounds, ages, nationalities, expertise, and tenure at the city. One common denominator is that our members all have the NSW factor: nice, smart, and willing. See, in my opinion, when employees actually volunteer rather than being voluntold or told to volunteer, there's a better chance that they will be there present in a wholehearted manner. So about our meetings, I must say that at the beginning, we struggled to have a quorum at the meetings. We did. This happens sometimes. And I think this is because members were based at different locations throughout the city, and it took time to go back and forth to our 1-hour meetings. And after all, we're all so busy. And on top of that, Hurricane COVID hit us. I thought, well, if members didn't attend during regular times, they will surely not attend during these trial times, such difficult times. Well, I was so wrong. One of our members suggested going virtual. Turns out that virtual meetings were exactly what we needed. Members could save travel time, and they could also jump right into another meeting right after hours. And it was then when we started having increased attendance. So getting down to business. Now that we had better meeting participation, we noticed that we were actually happy to see each other, virtually that is. Since we belong to different departments, we don't typically see each other unless it's like a health fair or a Christmas party. So we decided to allocate 10 minutes of our meeting for greetings, personal updates, and even a little trivia. Something like, according to Greek mythology, who was the first woman on Earth? I'll tell you about that later. But it was these little things like that that made our meetings fun and personable, and with a quorum. So a little play was okay, but we had to get down to business. We had to find a way to be efficient, dive into suggestions, and track our progress. This is when members' expertise came so handy. A topic that might have turned into a rabbit hole, we were able to tackle right on because one of our members knew exactly who in the city handled that topic, or who was the city expert, or if the suggestion already existed. So about our database, the CARE program has an amazing database. It's a fantastic tool. It is a searchable database containing all the suggestions for all the committees. One database where all the suggestions for all the committees are entered. You could search by date, by suggester, by committee, if a suggestion has been completed or closed or it's pending, and even more. The system also allows for spreadsheets to be exported, and so we did. We keep track of all of our suggestions, separated them by status, and assign them to different members. To date, we have received 96 suggestions. The spreadsheet has been extremely helpful in organizing our process and also our meetings. Now stay at no more than an hour to respect everyone's time. So let's talk about the connections. This slide refers to those times when all of our expertise and all of our efforts would not pan out. It sometimes happens. It does, believe me. And if there's one takeaway from our experience, is this one. Visualize an org chart and imagine how likely is an idea from a low-level employee to be heard by a decision maker and actually be implemented. How likely is that? So listen up. This is why the CARE program is so effective. It has been set up in a way that the typical org chart or organizational structure has speed passes. We all love speed passes, right? Like, I love it when I can jump at the top of the line instead of waiting on a 2-hour line at Disney or Universal. Well, in the same manner, the CARE team has access to high-ranking officers who have the power to make decisions. It's a speed pass to the game changers. I will leave you with one accomplishment from our committee, which Mr. Adderley already alluded to. The electric utility company was offering electric vehicle charging stations, also known as EV chargers, free of charge to the host sites. They have a limited number of units, and we're looking to find hosts throughout the state of Florida. To seize the opportunity, a series of steps needed to be ironed out. The location at city facilities needed to be identified and vetted. The codes needed to be reviewed. The agreement needed to be reviewed by the city attorney. Bottom line, their corresponding city department needed to take the lead. Well, at that particular time, that department was bogged down with COVID-related imminent projects, and they could just not take the lead. Guess what? The CARE Conservation Committee stepped up and took the lead. We received approval and took the speed pass to decision makers who made it happen. The city will be receiving 6 EV charging stations at no cost to us. That is free. These will be state-of-the-art network stations available online, showcasing that Miramar is a smart, green, sustainable city. The value per each EV dual charger, including equipment, infrastructure, installation, maintenance, and ongoing network costs, is calculated at $10,800 per EV charger. Multiplied by the 6 EV chargers that we will receive for free, totals over $64,000. These $64,000 would have been taken from the general fund if the care program didn't exist. Isn't that great? So that is my story. And by the way, it was Pandora. Pandora in Greek mythology was the first woman on earth. Thank you so much.
We will now hear from Hennessy, which is the co-chair of our revenue team.
Thank you, Mr. Adderley. Good day, all. Can you all hear me okay? Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you again for joining. And I know everyone enjoyed my colleague Elsie's presentation. Definitely fun. It's a wonderful endeavor to be collaborating with my colleagues to share our care program. Again, I'm Yenesi Toledo. I'm the accounting for the Financial Services Department. We're all excited to be part of the care team as well as the revenue committee in hopes of generating much needed revenue for the city. And now we'll discuss best practices as it relates to practice, to leadership, and we'll share the secrets of our success, and as well as give you an overview of FY20 by the numbers. Then we're going to discuss different types of care suggestions that the group has received. The Care Revenue Committee meets bi-weekly, and we discuss new suggestions as well as give updates to the group on the current ideas that are on the table. We've recruited new members, and as previously mentioned, it's been a tremendous help to the group. It's helped to keep the momentum going, and definitely the energy level of the group has been sustained. Now I'd like to share the committee's best practices as it relates to our process. I'll go through our process and explain each step briefly. The first thing we do when we receive a care suggestion is we vet out the suggestion and we discuss it from the perspective of the submitter. Then we see if the city is already doing this to avoid any duplicate efforts. Then we also evaluate any potential regulatory compliance issues that may present themselves or that may be associated. The most important part now, after we evaluate all these different factors, is it relates to the collaborative work that we do in government. And government is meant to support other government structures. So when we receive these fantastic ideas, what we do is we determine if other cities are doing this. We reach out to other cities and see if they're implementing these ideas, what their successes have been and what their failures have been. We seek further guidance then if they are implementing these ideas. Then, of course, being a revenue-based committee, we must determine if there's a financial benefit to the city, because that is the nature of our particular care committee. If there's not a revenue benefit, there may still be other benefits. Again, as previously mentioned, there may be a slew of other benefits that are not necessarily revenue generating. So at that point, we would submit that idea to our fellow committees and we would refer that idea to them to vet that out. Also of importance is determining what we would actually need to execute the idea, as well as any potential impact to other city departments. And at this point, we would implement the SWOT analysis method. That's the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we would definitely use that tool to further analyze the idea and the impact on the other city departments. So now as for best practices as it relates to leadership. We believe that members of our team are truly leaders and we're self-motivated. Therefore, we take ownership of the ideas that have been handed down to us and that are assigned to us. We're a diverse group as well, and we have members representing different departments, and that also allows us to have a more consolidated and more rounded view when analyzing these wonderful care suggestions that our team receives. We serve our city with pride and enthusiasm, and I think that our involvement with the care committee is just a reflection of that underlying motivation that our care committee members have. And just like we've been able to recruit dedicated members, we also believe that there's a lot more out there. So when discussing the care program, we find that members who share our enthusiasm are the ones that would do exceptionally well. Now we want to give FY20 a glance by the numbers. So out of all the different care suggestions that we've received, we've had 45, 10 have been favorable, 20 have not been favorable, and 15 have been deferred to other committees. The next slide is a further breakdown of the statuses. And one thing that it reflects is that a lot of great ideas have been submitted. As you can see, there's a lot of duplicate ideas, or they've already been, the ideas are already being implemented by the city. However, this is the basis for the program. So we highly encourage everyone to continue generating ideas, regardless what the outcome is. They're valuable suggestions on how to improve our city. As for the status of the current suggestions, we'd like to share that many suggestions are that are revenue generating, unfortunately, have been put on hold due to COVID. And there's an unfortunate event that's happened to us, which is this pandemic. And it certainly hit our revenue committee hard because a lot of events are revenue generating. So unfortunately, again, they have been put on hold. But we do want to note some successes, and of note is the solar powered trash and recycle bins that will be implemented soon. That's been a successful project, and we're going to show it now shortly. These are the solar powered receptacles. Sorry, you can see here an image of them as mentioned earlier. These will be delivered in now at the end of October. So this has been a successful endeavor that has come out of the care committee. And the next slide will show a little bit more detail as far as the advertising capabilities of these solar powered receptacles. And now I would like to briefly go over some suggestions that were submitted to the care committee that were successfully implemented. The first one is the signage. So there'll be a signage board in front of City Hall that will be included in our Block 2 redevelopment plan. The signage was a successful implementation of a care suggestion. The second one is the billboards. The city has entered into agreement to utilize our billboards for advertisement in order to generate greater revenue. So this was also a successful implementation of a care suggestion. And lastly, we're able to procure vending machines, which was also an idea submitted to care. And it was also for the employees' benefit, but given that it does generate revenue, it was part of our committee. And these were successful ideas that were implemented. I'm glad to share all the information with you, and I hope that it definitely serves to support your programs. I hope everyone is enjoying today's presentation, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Adderley.
Thank you, Anna C. and LC. And as I said earlier, there was a lot of tell, but we had to give you some show to actually show you how our teams are operating, both in good times and not so good times. I guess another question that will come up is, what kind of support do these teams need? Well, you heard them already refer to the D-base that we have. So you would need, we strongly recommend, a system-wide software or D-base to track all of your suggestions and all of your work, even when you get involved with some of the other facets of the program. People-wise, you need 2 people. And in our case, there's 2 people in the manager's office. I am one of them, T.C. Adderley. The other person is Kelvin Lewis. He's the care assistant. Now, Kelvin will share with us some of the special things or duties he has in relationship to supplying or supporting our committees. Mr. Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Adderley, for that great introduction. My name is Kelvin Lewis. No relation to Mr. Baker, but we work well. He's a wonderful person. We share the same first name. So it is a pleasure to work with him. So my name is Kelvin Lewis, and I am the care assistant. So good afternoon to you all. And I want to thank each and every one of you, especially for those on the panel, for your hard work and the efforts that you have put in to bring this presentation to fruition. What you have just witnessed is evidence of 2 committees demonstrating their full support, their buy-in for the program, and full embrace of the CARE program. and I am very proud of them. So I'll talk to you briefly about their strengths and in their membership. So the City of Miramar has care committees that are very exceptional, specifically for their ability to remain motivated, committed, focused in implementing their suggestions. They have consistently met and held meetings, even in the midst of the pandemic challenges that we faced. They are always seeking ways in adding value to their committee, embracing, engaging in various communication platforms to dialogue with and among their members is one of their greatest signature strengths, as you have just witnessed from Miss Elsie. So without excuses and apologies, the chairs and co-chairs, that's leadership on those committees, have successfully executed various strategies to challenge each member participation and demand their pledge of commitment to their committees. So the breadth of their skill set has also made participation a fun and exciting experience. And at times will include trivia questions, as Miss Elsie displayed, at the beginning of each meeting to provoke participation and increase enthusiasm. So at the conclusion of each meeting, the committee chairs would immediately schedule the meetings and provide me with updates on their suggestions. Their approach has exemplified creative leadership skill set with a pinch of urgency for execution. So in closing, and as the assistant of the care committee and cheerleader of these great committees, I do support the committee's efforts through various avenues by attending their meetings, by providing solutions to any of roadblocks issues, by listening to the committee and their concern, by complementing their presentations, and by asking for input, and lastly, engaging and employing some coaching techniques where it may be needed. So thank you for participating in this session, and thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Summary of care accomplishments. You've heard it before, 1,384 suggestions received. Over $3 million in new dollars have been added to our city. $37 million is a total impact over 20 years. Quality of life improvements for our employees, our residents, and business. And I alluded to very briefly, but we created a 501c3, economic development with ongoing community engagement. That nonprofit organization and looking for grants that require nonprofits has caused our care grants to go from 37 to 97 in recent months. And we still have another 108 that we're still considering. With that, representing the whole group that presented this evening, we say thank you, and we look forward to your questions and your comments.
Well, thank you so much to all of you, the panelists, and your material and your teamwork. So now for our audience, this is your opportunity to get to glean, from our experts here, how you might incorporate this into either your city or your organization. So again, as a reminder, you can ask a question or make a comment either through that written questions pane in the control panel, Or if you'd like to speak verbally, it doesn't have to be a question, it can be comments or other thoughts. You would hit that hand icon on the smaller control panel. That lets me know that you'd like to speak verbally. I will come to your location and unmute you and call you by first name. But we do have a couple that are in the queue here that I will go ahead and read out loud here. And then Mr. Adderley, perhaps either you or can just kind of pitch who you'd like it to go to. But we have a question here. So that touches on employee involvement, of course. So understanding that your program is based heavily on employee involvement, how do you keep staff motivated to participate in the program? And a little more here, knowing in government that we run tight fiscal budgets, employees have to wear many hats. Is there any type of incentive program, or what do you do to keep employees from burning out?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking. In fact, the chairs and co-chairs asked that question in several of our meetings. Well, the first thing I would say to you is use that group of intelligent chairs and co-chairs to come up with ideas. But some of the things we discussed was from an employee standpoint, we're considering when a suggestion is implemented, coming up not only with a recognition for the award, but we've considered monetary recognition for the suggestions that we see. Now, going back to the committees, that's a very difficult one. Most of the members are already motivated and ready to go, and they see themselves making a difference. But after a while, you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're having so much success, you need to keep them motivated. Some of the little things we've done is added positive members to the group, giving them a break. We even rotate the chair and co-chair's position so that we can give everybody on the team an opportunity, because they realize as we present it that this is also development of our employees. And most of them see it that way, as even though it's work and it does interfere with what they used to have to do, and now this is an addition, they also see it as development.
Interesting, very good. Okay, so another question here to follow up a little bit on what you just, what the previous question. We have an audience member asking, what's the commitment time frame to be on these committees? And are people selected or, or voluntold to be in the committees? And is there buy-in?
The commitment to be on the committee, there is no limitation. In fact, right as we currently have it, committees can, or committee members can be on the committee as long as forever, technically. Yes, we've had some change for various reasons. Some employees change jobs. Some employees say, TC, I would like a change, or Mr. Lewis, I would like a change. Can you do it? And we discuss those particular opportunities and we'll look at it. But with the number of employees that's coming in to the new group, we haven't had as much leaving or changing as we had those that are coming in. Now, forgive me, you had two other pieces to that question that I could probably simply answer yes or no, but I was thinking about the first question, so would you repeat the latter part for me?
You bet, sure. It's just back to whether people for the committees are selected, like voluntold to be in the committees, or, and then is there buy-in, is how they frame it.
That's a good question. And technically, we did answer it. When I presented, I said they were voluntold. I just didn't use the term. When Elsie talked about it, she did mention voluntold. And at first, it was not such a term of endearment. But after a while, and we got going, it turned out to be you were selected. When we added the facet of allowing the committee members to bring in members to support them, that kind of faded. But we also handled quickly some of their concerns, like how do I categorize the suggestion? Is it implemented? Is it not implemented? Do I implement it? Does somebody else implement it? when Mr. Lewis and I got together with them and gave them quick answers to those solutions, that kind of watered down the frustration that they may have to get the job done. So yes, they were voluntold, and more so now we have members volunteering because they see the success of the program. So initially, yes, they were appointed, and a lot of them were, but now we got more volunteers than we had in the beginning.
Excellent. Kind of another follow-up question here on back to the committees again. So can you speak to sort of the coaching? Who provides the coaching? How does the coaching happen with the committees?
Well, a lot of people give coaching credit to myself and Mr. Lewis, but what they don't really realize, because of our best practices meetings, because they're talking to each other, the coaching is really coming from one team to the other. They do more coaching, suggesting, and helping each other than even the two support members do. The SWOT analysis came from a team. WebEx came from a team. How do we handle this problem? What category should we put this suggestion in? That comes from the teams talking and working with each other. When they have a suggestion that may be revenue-based, but it also has an energy savings involved, the energy team or committee and the revenue committee, they call each other, they talk to each other, and they work it out. So if you want my answer to coaching, they may not even realize it. Most of the coaching, they're doing it themselves.
Good. Question here about the board. Let's see. So this member is wondering who has become the board? Well, they reference your 501c3, and who has become the board for the 501c3?
When it was established, we did have or selected board members for the board. And that is a combination of employees naturally. But when you have a 501c, naturally we will make sure that our finance people are part of that board. So without calling out the names or looking at the actual document, I can say to you, it does have a mixture of employees, and mainly from the finance department.
Okay, great. Okay, another question about the committees again, and wondering if the committees present to executive leadership on the outcomes of these teams, similar to what you are doing today, for instance, and to show what the efforts are in providing the outcomes. So hopefully I
Okay.
described that well enough.
Yeah, you did. Now I'll answer this question, but now I want help on the next questions, okay? So I'm gonna pick on my group. But no, our committees had a group of, and I'm gonna try to use my memory, I'm gonna say 36 suggestions that they had to present to the city manager. These were suggestions that could not be, or did not, or was not implemented by work order. They used the SWOT process to convince the city manager that this was a good idea and the city should move forward in creating it. So I hope I'm answering your question, and I ask for help from the committee members when I say the suggestions were presented to the city manager during a presentation. Each committee got to present their suggestions. The city manager gave a yay or nay on each of those suggestions, and then those suggestions went into the implementation process. Did I miss any part of that question?
You've got it. And she indicates, yes, you've answered it, and excellent. She also indicates she's leading very similar efforts in her own organization. So she seems to be, seems to be on par with your process. So that's excellent. Okay, so another question here. Go back. So kind of looking at the specifics here of, you've got very generous savings in regards to certain contract negotiations on your accomplishments page for such things as the events management services, the bus benches, etc. Can you provide what the original costs were so we have a better barometer to the success of these accomplishments?
Yes, I can. Even though I'm going to quickly say that some of the items that we have displayed or presented were new projects. They didn't involve an initial cost per se for the city. But to give an example, if I talked about bus bench is new. Had we not gone out and got a vendor and went through the process of soliciting vendors for that project, the city would have had to incur the price of purchasing the benches, installing the benches, and even the duty of going out and soliciting ads for the advertising of those benches. All of those things, all of those steps were not being done by the city prior to the negotiation of the contract. Therefore, the contract is pure either new revenue or new savings to the city because we didn't have a cost because the item simply was not done prior to the negotiations.
Excellent, understood. A question here about community and business involvement. So is there currently, or how can there be, community and or business involvement? And if there is involvement, what are some of the community concerns that have been addressed?
Currently, we're accepting suggestions from our employees only. We have not implemented the process where we actually customer service survey each of our contacts. Now, we still get those items from our customers without the official form that we could create. So we have not moved into the step of customer service survey, nor have we yet moved into the step of asking for such suggestions from the public. But since Mr. Baker and I have been involved with that type of process, that's easy. Currently, our employees can go online and put in their suggestion. But also we have drop boxes in key locations throughout the city. To involve our residents or our customers, we simply move those drop boxes into a lobby location with a sign to encourage our residents and our customers to drop in their suggestions to the city. That's how easy it is to phase in suggestions if you want them from your general population.
And Mr. Adler, if I may just maybe add a little more onto your statement, I want to somewhat comment on our ability to leverage and work with the business community. One of our major initiatives is in the area of our volunteer program. And as we reach out to our business community, we have discovered that there are many of them that are eager to help and work with our city much greater than we anticipated. I'll highlight a couple of examples. We have a sub shop in our city that was just eager to volunteer and donate, make lunches available for some of our city meetings. We have a department store in our community that has a goal to volunteer a certain amount of hours per month, and then this is more of a corporate-wide initiative. But when we came across them and learned that they were much more interested in volunteering, we learned that in addition to them making their employees or encouraging their employees to give and support the community, they also provided a financial contribution to a particular event that they actually show up to volunteer for. And again, as we get more in this, we are, again, continue to learn that there are many out there that have some of the similar goals that we have. And by us coming together and connecting, we're able to accomplish and benefit from even greater successes by partnering with our neighborhood businesses to provide a greater level of service to the overall community.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. And he has helped remind me of our public-private partnership committee, and a lot of what he just mentioned fell in that area. Thank you, sir.
Terrific. Thank you both. We actually have Lynette who would like to speak verbally. So Lynette, you are with us and I have unmuted you. Welcome. Lynette, are you with us? Oh, right. Lynette, maybe you can't hear me. I have unmuted your microphone. And she's typing. We don't hear you, Lynette. So I've unmuted you. Perhaps you are still muted on your end. So if you'd like to type in your question, I'd be happy to address it if we're still having trouble with your location. Okay, Lynette, we will come back to you. I will work with you on the back end. We have another written question here. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the so again, the committees certainly seem to have a lot of interest with our audience. Back to the committees, and I wondered if whether you have kind of back to the coaching piece, but a little differently. If you have quarterly or perhaps bi-yearly, what type of meetings do your committees hold, and how often? And do they share like think tank roundtables, spearheading ideas such as processes, back to the SWOT analysis? Kind of wondering how you structure those meetings.
Well, currently our committees are asked to meet once a week, but we give them the flexibility of saying, using grants committee as an example. TC, we search all grants this week. Now we need to fill out the paperwork or look at them. So they may meet every other week, and I think revenues may do that. So we suggest once a week, but we do give the committees the flexibility to work within their scope, their focus to get the job done. On top of that, as we mentioned, we have a monthly meeting where it's technically mandatory for chairs to be there, and we ask them to always bring the co-chairs, but we also allow them to invite others. So the mandatory meeting is a minimum and not a maximum, and that's where we actually do share best ideas. And even though we call it going around the table, we have jokingly just referred to it as round table, where we actually share not only our successes, but we share our problems that we have during the month. So not on a quarterly basis, but on a monthly basis, we get to hear from each other. That also does not count the times when a committee may have a suggestion that looks like another committee and not them, and they may get on the line and two committees may talk to each other. Those we don't account for because those are too much based on suggestions and doing research. So we do have quarterly meetings for the chairs, and we do have anywhere from weekly to every other week meetings for each committee.
Okay, great. Thank you. Tracy's asking about the workforce of, okay, she's asking how is the workforce affordable housing implemented and how do you determine who will receive that benefit?
Mr. Baker, I'm going to have to defer to you on that one.
I think that our workforce and affordable housing, that is an initiative right now where we are actually going through a feasibility study process to determine how ultimately that would look when we roll it out. So we're doing just a series of surveys with various housing authorities to determine what platform we'd actually roll out. So we don't have the pieces pulled together on that initiative yet, but we're moving very heavily in that direction. Again, our goal is to uh, make sure we have all of the tools necessary to allow everyone that desire to live in the city of Miramar, be it on the east side of our city or the west side of our city, but that those opportunities will be made available to them through these affordable housing programs that we hope to bring online.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Okay, Lynette was able to write her comments and questions here. She is with the City of Houston. She would like to commend you all and Mr. Adderley all on the great accomplishments. She's asking, what has been your greatest challenge managing the program, and what tools have you utilized to resolve those challenges? And we'll take that as our last question as we are at the end of our time here.
Ms. Adley, may I take that one?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Yeah. Probably our greatest challenge is to keep all of our teams motivated. And periodically, I will make a visit to each one of the committees and encourage. And I think what we have learned when we bring all of the committees together and everyone share their successes, it really become a very friendly competition, somewhat, the old saying of iron sharpening iron. It tends to motivate each other. They tend to motivate each other to allow that motivation that started from the beginning to continue. Furthermore, we do an annual event where we're able to showcase all of our annual successes with the entire city. We're fortunate to have a substantial size auditorium where we're able to bring all of the employees in and highlight all of the care initiatives. This past year, we were able to conclude our annual gathering with an employee talent show. So it was a very fun event. We had a chance to not only celebrate numerous of care successes, but also to have a time of laughter with our employees. And we also learned that we have some excellent talent in our city as it relates to entertainment and what have you. So those are just a few of the things that we have put together. And again, we're continuing to look to do additional things as we forge ahead into the future. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. So, Mr. Adderley, I'm going to just say any final comments on behalf of the team.
My only final comment is thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing here at the City of Miramar. We enjoy the product. We enjoy it enough that we're giving it away. So please accept our thank you from all 5 of the presenters. And I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you to our presenters, especially our 2 co-chairs. They didn't have to present for us, but as soon as I called them and said, would you like to? The answer was yes, especially when they had an opportunity to utilize a presentation that we have just recently seen. So once again, thanks to everyone involved in the process, and it was the City of Miramar's pleasure to present.
Excellent. Well, I want to say thank you to all of you, dedicated professionals, experts, for sharing what you've learned and succeeded with, sharing it. And our audience, I want to thank you for your time. We know how busy everybody is and different challenges, and time is certainly valuable. So thank you for being here with us. And we did record this program. If you're an ASPA member, you will have access to it on demand, and we certainly hope that you can glean what you can take back to your organization, your city, and again, we really appreciate sharing and the collaboration. So I wish everybody a terrific rest of their day, and great teamwork, and we certainly hope to work with you again. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
You all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.